Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. Today doing the 2021 True Boxing Awards continue, and this video is on the overall win of the year. We're going to do the top 3 wins in each division. I'm going to try to go through them a little bit quicker than my other videos. Those would be the candidates, and then I'm going to give you my top 10 because this is a big award right here. To award and recognize the fighters, the candidates, is a major thing. And overall win of the year just qualifies all the wins. I know we did contenders win of the year. We did title defense of the year. We did title win of the year. This is overall win of the year. Comparing all those, the title defenses, the title wins, all of them rolled into one. What was the biggest win of the year in 2021, according to me? So let's jump right into it. We start at 122 from 3 to 1. Number 3 is Stephen Fulton's 12-round unanimous decision over Angelo Leo. This was a big fight for Stephen Fulton. Big victory. It led to his unification bout with Brandon Figueroa later on in the year. And it was big. He captured his first world title, and they were both undefeated fighters. So a big win right there. That finishes number 3. Number 2 at 122 goes to Brandon Figueroa for a 7th round knockout of Luis Nery. This same thing as the Stephen Fulton fight. It led to the unification bout with Stephen Fulton later in the year. It was ended by knockout, a nice body shot knockout in the 7th round for Figueroa. And, that was the biggest win of his career. He captured his first official title. I mean, he had the secondary WBA belt prior to that, but this one allowed him to win this, beating a 2-division champion, Luis Nery. That was number 2. But the overall win of the year at super bantamweight, 122 pounds, goes to Stephen Fulton Jr. for his 12-round majority decision over Brandon Figueroa. They were 2 undefeateds. It was a unification bout. And for me, because of what they both accomplished and was at stake and how highly regarded both fighters were at 122, this was to determine who the new number 1 in the division is. And to have another 2-belt holder, which could lead to an undisputed title fight with MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev. So this was a big fight right here. Stephen Fulton won a close decision, and that one is my win of the year at super bantamweight 122. Now 126 featherweight, the top 3 there. Number 3, I gave it to Emmanuel Navarrete's 12-round unanimous decision over Joet Gonzalez. The reason why I chose this one at number 3 was because Gonzalez was a legitimate top 10 guy and could bring it. And, he did bring it. He brought a good fight. He fought hard, and Navarrete had to work hard in this fight, but he weathered whatever storm that Gonzalez brought and outworked him, busted his face up. And to me, this win sealed Navarrete being the number 1 guy at featherweight. So this was the number 3 win of the year. Number 2, I gave it to Kiko Martinez for a 6th round knockout of Kid Galahad. This was a big win right here, not just the way it ended. I mean, it was a big win because Kiko was widely written off. He had moved up to 130, lost the close decision to Zelfa Barrett, but people more looked at that as Zelfa Barrett not being on the level of the elite. So Kiko moves back down, and they throw him in against Galahad, who is highly regarded, had just won the title, and was really sitting at the top of the division. And Galahad dominated Kiko for the first 4.5 rounds of the fight, and then Kiko caught him with an overhand right at the end of the 5th. Somehow Galahad got to his feet, got sent out there for the 6th when he shouldn't have, and he got caught with another overhand right and laid out. Big upset. Kiko becomes a 2-division world champion and throws his name into the mix there. So that's number 2. But the overall win of the year at featherweight this past year, for me, was Mauricio Lara's 9th round knockout of Josh Warrington. Warrington was the top guy with Gary Russell Jr. at featherweight coming into this fight. He had given up his belt, but was looking at fighting Shu Kan for the WBA title. So, he really was looking at Mauricio Lara and probably overlooking him, but he was looking at him like just a stay busy tune-up fight. And Lara came in and just beat the holy shit out of Josh Warrington. He beat him up for the entire fight, and in the 9th round laid him out, and left no doubt he was the better man. So it led to their rematch, which ended in a 2-round no contest. But Mauricio Lara made a statement that he's a player at 126 now with that dominating performance, and that's the overall win of the year at featherweight. 130 super featherweight. Number 3, I gave it to Jamel Herring, 6th round TKO of Carl Frampton. You know, Herring came into this fight, I think it was kind of a 50-50 fight because Frampton is a talented former 2-division champ, but he was also a small fighter at 130. And Herring is a pretty good size, you know, super featherweight at 130. And I just thought he was going to break down Frampton, and he went out there and went above and beyond, dominated Frampton, and stopped him in the 6th round impressively and retained his world title. So that was a big win. It led to his showdown with Shakur Stevenson later in the year. Speaking of that finishes number 2, Shakur Stevenson, his 10th round TKO of Jamel Herring. I mean, Stevenson went out, and I predicted Stevenson because of styles and youth and speed. I predicted Stevenson to completely do what he did and dominate Jamel Herring. And he did that. This was his career best win. He became a 2-division world champ, and he absolutely shut down a very solid and talented southpaw in Jamel Herring, stopping him in the 10th round to capture the championship at 130 right there. That was big. But the number 1, without a doubt, for 130 pounds, overall win of the year at super featherweight goes to Oscar Valdez for his brutal 10th round knockout of Miguel Berchelt. This was the biggest win of the year because he absolutely dominated the fight, won, but Miguel Berchelt was the universal number 1 fighter at super featherweight. There was no question. You know, Stevenson and Herring, you know, most people thought Stevenson, but some people thought Herring. I don't think anybody was saying Valdez was going to do what he did. And he went in there and just shut down Miguel Berchelt, beat him to the punch, beat him up, and scored a brutal 10th round knockout to capture the WBC super featherweight title. Absolutely the win of the year at 130 super featherweight. 135 lightweight. Number 3, it was tough. There was some good wins this year, but number 3, I gave it to Devin Haney's 12-round unanimous decision over Jorge Linares. Linares, to me, was still a top 5 lightweight when this fight happened, and Devin Haney hadn't beaten anybody even close to Jorge Linares. So this was kind of his introduction, and he went into this fight and proved to me that he belongs in the top tier class, and that's what he needed to do. I said it at the beginning of the year that he wasn't in my top 10 because he hadn't done anything yet, and he went out there and did it. He went out there for most of this fight and just speed, everything against a good, solid boxer, a veteran, and he dominated the action. Dominated, beat Linares to the punch consistently, outboxed him, outclassed him. But in the 9th or 10th round, he got caught with a brutal right hand that hurt him badly, and he was jumping at Linares to recover. And the referee should have stepped in and warned him because he did it for about a round and a half, 2 rounds, because he was hurt. And then he finally found himself in the 12th round. That was a little bit controversial to me, but, you know, I don't know if Linares would have finished him or not. But the point is that Haney, this was a good, solid performance against a top 5 guy, and it led to a showdown with Jojo Diaz later in the year. And after that win, Haney has really thrown himself in the mix at 135. So that's number 3. Number 2 at lightweight this year goes to Ryan Garcia's 7th round knockout of Luke Campbell. Ryan Garcia was in the same boat as Devin Haney. He had to prove himself against the top tier lightweight. He had to prove that he belonged in the top 10. I didn't have him ranked in the top 10 either coming into the year because he hadn't beaten anybody good enough to deserve that ranking. And Luke Campbell was definitely good enough. Ryan Garcia went in there and he faced adversity. He got put down in the 2nd round, but the fact that he just continued to press forward, Campbell fought good too. It was a good action fight, back and forth. And in the 7th round, no, Garcia caught Campbell with a wicked body shot that put Campbell down and out for the count. He couldn't get up. That was a huge win. Ryan Garcia has announced that he's at the party now, and then Luke Campbell ended up retiring, sadly. So big win right there. But the number 1, the overall win of the year at 135 without question is George Kambosos for his 12-round split decision over Teofimo Lopez. This was a huge fight. It was a unification bout. I mean, it was a unified title fight. You know, Lopez pretty much holds 3.5 of the world titles, and he was just coming in to bull rush Kambosos. They both traded knockdowns. Kambosos outworked them, won the championship rounds, got a split decision, big time upset and win right here over the top dog at 135, George Kambosos. 140, number 140, junior welterweight. Number 3, I gave it to Montana Love for his 7th round TKO of Ivan Baranchyk. This was a big win, and you know, it kind of surprised people because it happened on the Paul Woodley pay-per-view card, so it kind of flew under the radar for real boxing fans. But you know, Ivan Baranchyk is a former champ, and he was in the fight of the year against Jose Cepeda last year. And you know, he came in against the undefeated Montana Love, and I don't think a lot of people thought this was going to happen, but Montana Love dominated him and stopped him in the 7th round, and Ivan Baranchyk really had no answer. So big win right there for Montana Love. It announced that he's at the party now at 140, and threw him into the mix. Number 2 goes to Jose Cepeda for his 1st round TKO of Josue Vargas, who was an undefeated prospect coming in. He was talking a lot of shit, saying how he was going to beat Cepeda. He even had the odds. A lot of money was put on Vargas, so much so that he became the favorite in the fight, surprisingly. And Cepeda showed him what was up right early on in the 1st round. He told him there's levels to this and the reason why, and he landed a wicked left hand in the 1st round that put Vargas down. Vargas scrambled to his feet, badly hurt, but could not continue. And Jose Cepeda, big win right there to let everybody know why he's a top 5 guy at 140 right now. But the number 1, without question, at 140 overall win of the year, that's Josh Taylor for his 12-round unanimous decision over Jose Ramirez to unify all 4 belts and become the undisputed junior welterweight champion of the world. This is huge. This is history in the 4-belt era, which has been around for about 30 years now. I think Taylor became only the 6th man to accomplish this feat. There's 7 now after Canelo did it, but a huge accomplishment right here. 2 undefeated champions. They were 1 and 2 in the division, no doubt. And Taylor, you know, we needed a clear-cut winner. He put Ramirez down twice, and he outworked them. So big win right there for Josh Taylor. That's the best win at 140. 147. Number 3, I'm going with Jaron Ennis for his 6th round knockout of Sergey Lipinets. Welterweight, we kind of knew at some point it was going to turn over. You have a lot of veterans there, and Manny Pacquiao retired after losing to Yordenis Ugas, and you had Sean Porter retire after losing to Terrence Crawford. They needed one of their young bucks to come up and make a statement, and Sergey Lipinets was a tough guy in the back of the top 10, you know, and Jaron Ennis was trying to let everybody know he's the real deal, and he did that. He dominated Lipinets, put him down and out in the 6th round impressively, and announced that he's a real threat and a top 5 guy at 147 now. Number 2 goes to Yordenis Ugas for his 12-round unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao. You know, Ugas, the kind of name that he is, to step in on short notice, 13 days, and take on a legend and everything like Pacquiao. And I know people are going to say, well, you know, Pacquiao had 13 days notice too. You're right. The point is Pacquiao's been here before and done all that. He's been in these major fights. Ugas took all that pressure on short notice and went at Manny Pacquiao and pretty much outboxed him and outclassed him. He got a clean 12-round unanimous decision and retained his world title, and now it's leading to a unification bout with Errol Spence. So big-time win right there. It's the mark of his career. If he ended now, it would be okay because of that. So huge win right there. That's number 2. Number 1, Terrence Crawford, his 10th round TKO of Sean Porter. This is a huge fight for both guys. Crawford needed to win impressively. It was a close fight against a veteran, former 2-time champ Sean Porter, and Crawford went out there and did his thing and impressed and really put a lockdown on the number 1 spot in the division, beating Sean Porter the way he did. So big win right there. That's the overall win of the year at 147. 154, super welterweight. Number 3, I gave it to Sebastian Fundora for his 12-round unanimous decision over Sergio Garcia. These are 2 undefeated contenders right here, fighting in an eliminator to get in line to really turn over this division. Hard-fought battle between these 2. Fundora got a points win in a good fight, and that's number 3. Number 2, I'm going with Erickson Lubin's 6th-round knockout of Jason Rosario, the former unified champ. Heading into this one, Lubin was the favorite, but he was on the Gervonta Davis undercard, and he needed to prove himself, and he did that with flying colors, dominating Jason Rosario over the course of the fight, finally stopping him with a brutal body shot in the 6th round. And really, he's a number 3 fighter at 154 right now. But the number one, the win of the year at 154 goes to Brian Castano for his 12-round unanimous decision over Patrick Teixeira. This was supposed to be a firefight right here, and it was a one-sided firefight. Brian Castano went in there and dominated Teixeira and defeated him to capture the WBO belt, and it led to the undisputed title fight with Jermell Charlo later in the year. So that was a huge win. That's the overall win of the year at 154. 160, middleweight. Number 3, I'm going with Kazakh style, Janibek Amanakanouli for his 9th round TKO of Rob Brandt, the former champ. Amanakanouli came in, he was kind of unknown, but he was undefeated. He just had the nickname working for him, Kazakh style, going against Brandt, who was still a top 10 middleweight. And Amanakanouli went in and dominated. It led to another win later in the year, and now he's the top contender and in line to fight Demetrius Andrade if Andrade accepts the fight. So big time win for Amanakanouli, Kazakh style. Number 2 goes to Jaime Munguia for his 12-round unanimous decision over Gabriel Rosado. He really dominated this fight. Rosado is coming off of impressive performances in a split decision, controversial loss to Janny Jacobs, and an upset 3rd-round knockout of Bektemir Melikuziev. So everybody thought that Munguia was going to be Rosado was going to be a tough test for Munguia, and Munguia went out there and dominated Rosado over 12 rounds. He was just too fast, too quick, and a bully in there, and he went in there and took the fight to Rosado and got a one-sided unanimous decision as he throws himself really into the title mix, severely, as everybody's got to notice, and I think he's going to fight in an eliminator next now. But the overall win of the year at 160 middleweight, I gave it to Carlos Adames for his 10-round majority decision over Sergey Derevyanchenko. That was a big win for Adames. It's going to lead to him fighting Jaime Munguia, and Derevyanchenko was floating around the top 5 as a middleweight still. And he took the fight against Adames, and Adames in his debut at middleweight went in there and pulled off the upset. That's the overall win of the year at middleweight 160 for me. 168, get used to Canelo. Number 3 was his 3rd-round TKO of Avni Yildirim to retain his unified super middleweight title. This was a mandatory fight. He had to take it. He went in against Yildirim and did what he's supposed to do, dominated him, stopped him in 3 rounds, and retained his unified belt. Number 2 goes to Canelo for his 8th-round TKO of Billy Joe Saunders to unify belts. Canelo had the WBA, WBC belt and was going after the WBO belt against the undefeated 2-division champ Saunders, and the winner, was going to have 3 of the 4 titles in the division. And it ended up being a good fight, but Canelo stalked, got to Saunders, broke his orbital bone, 8th-round TKO as Saunders could not continue, and Canelo unified belts. But without question, the overall win of the year at 168 goes to Canelo Alvarez again for his 11th round TKO of Caleb Plant to unify all 4 belts and become the undisputed super middleweight champion. This was a monumental win right here. The winner, Canelo, became only the 7th man in the 30-year 4-belt era to unify all 4 belts and become undisputed champion, and he became the first Mexican to do so, which was his goal. Big time win right there, as Canelo is now the undisputed super middleweight champ with that win. 175, light heavyweight, top 3. Number 3, I'm going with Anthony Yard for his 4th round TKO of Lyndon Arthur in their rematch. Anthony Yard wanted revenge. He went out, he got it, he dominated Lyndon Arthur, stopped him in the 4th round, and is now in line to fight Joe Smith Jr. for the WBO title because of it. Number 2 is Joe Smith Jr. for his 12-round majority decision over Maxim Vlasov. This was a tough fight for Joe Smith, but Joe Smith, after becoming one of the candidates for Fighter of the Year in 2020, he went out there and captured his first world title, made his dream come true, but he had to work hard for it against a solid veteran in Vlasov, and he went out there and defeated him and became the WBO champion. Big time win. And number 1 goes to Arthur Beterbiev, his 9th round TKO of Marcus Brown. Marcus Brown went in there and did well against Beterbiev early on. Then a bad cut opened up a headbutt opened up a bad cut on his forehead, on Beterbiev's forehead, and everybody was worried. But Beterbiev knew he had to go out there and get Marcus Brown, or it was going to be a bad night because of because it could have went to a technical decision where Brown was winning the fight early on. But that did not deter Arthur Beterbiev. He went out there on the attack, dominated in the middle rounds and wore down Marcus Brown and stopped them in the 9th round, impressively retained his light heavyweight championship of the world. 200 cruiserweight, top 3. Maris Bradis for his 2nd round TKO of Arthur Mann. This was just a stay busy fight, but there wasn't a lot of big fights at cruiserweight, so Bradis went out there and made quick work of Arthur Mann and retained his IBF title. Number 2 goes to Lawrence Okoli for his 3rd round TKO of Dejan Prasovic. It was a mandatory title fight right here. Okoli was coming off the big win over Glowacki, and he went in there and did his thing, dominated Prasovic with ease, stopping him in the 3rd round, impressively retained his title. Number 1, though, for cruiserweight on the year, overall win of the year, I got to go with Lawrence Okoli for his 6th round knockout of Krzysztof Glowacki. I don't think people were surprised that Okoli won. It's just the way he dominated Glowacki was the impressive thing. He really went out there and just picked him apart and then landed that straight overhand right that put Glowacki away for good. And Okoli retained his championship with that win, or became world champion for his first time with that win, and put everybody on notice. So big time win right there. That's the overall win of the year at 168, or at cruiserweight. I'm sorry. But the second, now heavyweight. We go to heavyweight, take a look at the top 3 there. Number 3 was Dillian Whyte for his 4th round knockout of Alexander Povetkin in their rematch for the WBC interim title. It's going to lead to a title shot, hopefully, but Whyte needed to extract his revenge. He went out there against Povetkin, an always dangerous opponent, and stopped him and got his revenge. Number 2, Alexander Usyk, his 12 round unanimous decision over Anthony Joshua to capture the unified title. What a win right here. And it really made him the unified champion. It was such a big win. But the overall win of the year at heavyweight, I gave it to Tyson Fury for his 11th round knockout of Deontay Wilder, because it really set the tone for, it really put to bed their rivalry, and it was such a big fight and such a good fight, and Fury had to work hard, and it was back and forth, trading knockdowns, and Fury finished it with an 11th round knockout. And now the top 10 now overall on the year, from 10 to 1. Number 10 goes to Dillian Whyte, his 4th round knockout of Povetkin. Like I said, that was a big win. He needed to get his revenge to keep himself in line for a title. And, Povetkin knocking him out was, I can't remember if it was upset of the year or not last year, but Dillian Whyte needed to get his revenge. Not many people, myself included, thought he would, and he went out there and dominated and got him out of there. That was number 10. Number 9 goes to Canelo for his 8th round TKO of Billy Joe Saunders. This led to the undisputed title fight. Billy Joe Saunders was a sizable name in the UK and worldwide, 2-division world champ, and he actually boxed Canelo decent in the fight. He won a few rounds, 2 or 3 rounds, and Canelo just kept getting closer though, and then he landed that brutal uppercut that broke the orbital bone of Billy Joe and put him away. And that was a big time win for Canelo right there. He grabbed a hold of 3 of the 4 titles at super middleweight. Number 8 goes to Oscar Valdez for his 10th round knockout of Miguel Berchelt. This really put, this was a huge win and a huge knockout. Berchelt was the number 1 guy at 130, and Valdez needed to come and take that mantle away from Berchelt, and he did that. He went out there and he dominated him, stopped him in the 10th round impressively, and made himself the number 1 guy with the win. Number 7 goes to Josh Taylor for his 12-round unanimous decision over Jose Ramirez to become the undisputed champion at 140. I mean, it's sad that an undisputed title fight makes it to 140, but these 2 guys not being huge names worldwide is partly that, but still, what an accomplishment for Josh Taylor. I mean, he dominated. It was a good fight early, then he scored 2 knockdowns and almost knocked Ramirez out. He weathered the storm late in the fight when Ramirez got back into it, and he held on to win a clean decision and unified all 4 belts. That's huge. And now he's a top dog at 140 and a star now in the making. Number 6 is George Kambosos for his 12-round split decision over Teofimo Lopez. This is a huge win right here. Lopez was the top dog at lightweight, which is one of the top divisions in boxing right now. And Kambosos came out of nowhere, a mandatory number 1 contender, but hadn't beaten anybody close to Lopez. And after Lopez almost put Kambosos down in the first round, he landed a huge overhand right to put Kambosos down, or put Lopez down, and then from there held on and dominated the, outworked Lopez. Lopez had his moments. It was close, and he came in and knocked Kambosos down in the 10th, and everybody thought that was going to be it. And then Kambosos turned the tide in the 11th and 12th, won the championship rounds, and defeated Teofimo Lopez to capture the unified lightweight championship in a big upset. Number 5, Yordenis Ugas' 12-round unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao. I mean, what this means for boxing, Pacquiao, when you look at the end of his career, you're always going to know he lost to Yordenis Ugas. Pacquiao retired from this. But it also is leading Ugas to a unification bout with Errol Spence, which he's an underdog, but I can't say he's not. He can't win that fight. I think he can win that fight. So, it was a huge win for Ugas. It caps his career. Anybody that ever gets a clean win over Manny Pacquiao, and that's rare, your career's set for life. And really, outside of the couple guys that knocked out Pacquiao very early on in his career before he became a star, Eric Morales beat him clean, but it was a close fight. So Ugas kind of has a heads up on him. You got Mayweather beat him clean, and Marquez knocked him out. Those are the only clean wins, or clean losses of Pacquiao's career, and Ugas can add his name to that. So that's number 5 on 2021. Number 4 goes to Terrence Crawford for his 10th round knockout of Sean Porter. Sean Porter was a beast, never been knocked out. I predicted Crawford to win by knockout, but I wasn't sure he could do it. He had to go for it, and he kept setting up and timing that big left uppercut, and finally he kept landing it, but finally it worked out, and he put Porter away impressively and captured the world title with that win. I mean, retained his world title and let everybody know why he's the top dog at welterweight, which is still one of the best divisions of boxing. Number 3, Canelo Alvarez, his 11th round TKO of Caleb Plant to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Big time win right here for Canelo, history making. The fact that Plant wasn't a big marquee guy with a big resume is why this one's only number 3. But there was a lot of bad blood. Plant did decent, won a couple rounds boxing, and Canelo just kept stalking, and put him away impressively in the 11th round to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Only the 7th man in history to do that in the 4-belt era, and the first Mexican to do it, which was his prime a goal right there. Number 2 goes to Alexander Usyk for his 12-round unanimous decision over Anthony Joshua to become the unified heavyweight champion of the world. This was a big win. People don't respect it enough in the United States, but these two guys are big names worldwide, especially Anthony Joshua. I can't even begin to tell you how much money that guy makes because he's such a big name worldwide. And everybody just thought Joshua's size was going to be too much for Usyk, and Usyk, but Joshua for some reason tried to fight Usyk's fight, and Usyk completely outboxed him. He's a master class boxer. He's already been undisputed champion at 200 pounds. He's never tasted defeat, and he wasn't about to in this one either, as he dominated the action and beat Anthony Joshua impressively to become the unified heavyweight champion of the world. But number 1, I got to go overall win of the year just because of the impact it made on the sport and how big of a name Tyson Fury is. It goes to him knocking out Deontay Wilder in their 3rd fight to retain the WBC heavyweight title. I mean, it was just a magical fight. I've said it already in a few of these videos. It was a magical fight. Fury, looked like he was going to do it early, pick up where he left off in the 2nd fight and dominate and stop him earlier. And Wilder put him down twice in the 4th, almost stopped him. The momentum would swing back and forth over the next few rounds, mostly in Fury's favor, but Wilder would have his moments where he would land a big punch and you would be like, okay, is this going to be it? And then finally in the 10th, Wilder went down again. He got up, but it looked like that was going to be all she wrote. But the guy showed a ton of heart of a warrior, and Fury knew he had to put Wilder away. He didn't settle for a decision. He went out there and landed a monster right hand that face planted Deontay Wilder. And really, to me, that's the picture of boxing for 2021. That was a huge win right there, and big for Fury to end this rivalry the way he did, and such an emotional back and forth fight. That to me is the 2021 True Boxing Award for overall win of the year. Tyson Fury knocking out Deontay Wilder. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.